Well, speaking of news and contacts, you mentioned on Keeping 100 that you know or knew Drew McIntyre. Over the past over the past year, he was portrayed as the top babyface in the company. It really seemed like they were really going the real big push behind them. But since fans have been able to return to the show, it's been a gradual decline in his portrayal, I guess you could call it, and that he's fucking he lost the opening match of WrestleMania. Then at what was it, Money in the Bank, he didn't win that, and then he got jumped by the Jinder Mahal guys. Then at SummerSlam, he had a match at SummerSlam that was so pointless you could have watched it on fucking Snapchat. That's one of my hilarious jokes because Snapchat videos are 10 seconds. Everybody will take a break for laughter and then we'll continue on with the interview. But so, what is the vibe going on backstage with Drew McIntyre and the way it really seems that he's gone from being like the top guy to a guy?
Yeah, I mean, without giving too much of the private stuff away, that there is an awareness of that, and I'm quite open. I won't say anything on podcasts that I won't say on Drew. Like, I won't say directly to Drew, because the thing is that the relationship that we had and the sort of the agreement that we kind of always made is that I would just, that he wants me to say what I think. He doesn't want me to go, oh yeah, the sword's great, like the outfit's great, the music's great, the match is great, like, it's not, the storyline's great. It's never been that. Like, so it wouldn't make any sense for it to be that. I would understand that there would be people that are doing that, but like, I kind of said at one point, like, this is how I would prefer to be, like, moving. Obviously, as soon as after he won the Royal Rumble and we knew where he was going, I just said, look, like, I'll continue to, like, if you don't want me to do this, I won't. But like I said, I'll say what I actually think. And he goes, no, that's exactly what I would prefer. He goes, I want someone to, like, give me their insight or whatever. But the thing is, even during the run, it was like criticisms. But the thing is that often, whatever those criticisms were, there was praise as well, because Drew was having the best matches. Like, as a championship run, since Shawn Michaels was the champion back in '96, I mean, that also wasn't a successful run business-wise. But every match that he had from, I believe he started with Diesel. Then he went into a program with the Bulldog. Then he went into a program with Vader, and then he went into a program with Mankind before he lost it to Sid. But it was a string of, like, bangers like that he was having. Drew was doing that too. Like, he worked with Ziggler, Lashley, Rollins. Sorry, at the beginning I missed that one out. So he went from Rollins to Lashley to Ziggler to the feud of Randy Orton, and he was also having these consistent bangers, which champions haven't had. They've always been, like, very hit and miss. So I think you could also put Punk's reign in 2012 into that category. Where he worked with also Ziggler and then Jericho, and then he had a spell with Daniel Bryan, etc. So there have been some, but there have not been that many. The work rate was that good, and also when he's 6'5", like, it means more when you're tearing it up in the ring, like with matches, because you fit the WWE criteria and you're equal to the little guys, because the only reason you push an Adam Cole or Daniel Bryan is because they're exceptional in the ring. When a 6'5" guy does what they do, they become completely negated. Like, you don't need to have Adam Cole if Drew McIntyre's matches are as good as Adam Cole, or just a little bit but below. Like, the size and everything else, the look makes up for it. So I feel like he was doing a great job of that. So obviously I said that, but at the same time, when I said stuff like, that's smart, like, you're building up to a match with Lashley or whoever, I said that's the smile on the picture, like these photo shoots that they've done with you, like, they don't fit. Like, and he said, yeah, I hate them. Like, it was always a case of, yeah, I hate this. And it was a case of, like, if I was able to say the sword is stupid. Like the sword for me is a backward step. The sword, so you got over organically as the guy, as a kick-ass guy who won the Royal Rumble, right? And he was doing the whole 3-2-1 thing where he was like killing people and it was starting to get over. So I don't know why you attach a gimmick to someone that's already a champion. You attach a gimmick to someone when they come in, and then the idea is to lose a gimmick through time to organically get them over. Now it's a case of we need to attach gimmicks to as many people as we can because we need to sell this, we need to sell that, we need to sell foam swords, we need to have more accessories on the action figures. It's bullshit. Like if you're so desperate to get the 6-year-olds, why are you airing at 8 p.m. at night? Because I can only think that you're trying to get the 6-year-olds because I've got a 10-year-old who's been watching since he was a 2-year-old, who now doesn't watch Raw and only watches it in a 45-minute version. And that's after me being on his case about it. And the only reason I'm on his case about it is because he was writing an article for my website from the which was supposed to be from the eyes of a child in terms of what a kid thinks of Raw. Because, I worked out a while ago that this show is becoming more and more like kiddie. Like it's not for me. I watch it because I've always watched it, but I want to know if it's actually working for the kids. Like all the kiddie elements that are in the show, are they actually like working with the kid? Like, do kids find Matt Riddle funny, for example? What do they think of Alexa? What do they think of The Fiend? All this stuff. And it doesn't hit. So it doesn't hit with them at all. Like, so I don't know if 10 is too, I mean, I had this conversation with Disco today and he was telling me, oh yeah, 10-year-olds is too old, but it comes on at 8. Yeah. Like, so I don't understand that, but yeah, in getting back to Drew, like there's an awareness there, but at the same time, he could have lost that match to Jinder. He could have had more losses than he has done. He simply lost the belt and then lost the rematches for the belt. Since then, he's pretty much been untouched. So I don't know where you go with him because he cannot get another title shot. I would probably move him over to SmackDown, but at that point, he's just going to be Roman Reigns' Royal Rumble guy to go through because Reigns is beating everybody. So it's difficult. Like, I think a heel turn is inevitable in the next 12 months. But until then, I think he's just going to be a guy in the main event scene that wins a lot of matches. But I don't think he'll be champion again for the next 12 months.
I'd heard a rumor that there was a plan for a SummerSlam or some big TV network special to be held in the UK from Wembley Stadium, and it was going to be Drew against Tyson Fury. And I have a theory that Tyson's Fury's pretty much proven lack of commerciality, whatever the word is. I think that's maybe why WWE have said, okay, well, that huge money match is now off. Anthony Joshua is not going to wrestle. So I think that they're thinking, okay, we're going to now move back focus and plans to Lashley versus hopefully Lesnar.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big dirt sheet thing where it's all like, oh, Lashley Lesnar. Like that was a definite thing that they were 100% heading towards. Like a lot of guys had it on their fantasy SummerSlam cards and all that. Like that's another thing. Like I don't do this fantasy bullshit. Like I don't make wallpapers and do all that kind of stuff. Like for me, it's just a case of I watch it, I find out information about it. It gets me onto like loads of shows. I'm able to actually then plug the stuff that I actually make money from. So for me, like, that's not something that I would tend to do in terms of, it's very difficult for me to be that fan anymore where I dream about all these matches that I want to see, right? Because a lot of stuff gets used on Raw and SmackDown. There's so much TV to do. Like it's hard to like really sit there and think about one-off matches to come in. Like when The Rock comes in and takes on Roman, for me, it's going to be more about the promos and everything they get there, like the story, like, the match is going to be what, loads of like finishes, like rest spots and things, because The Rock can't, he's going to struggle to get straight back into the ring shape, whatever. So, or your ring condition. So yeah, but so what did you ask me again? Sorry. Yes.
The main question.
You asked me if they're going to go back to Lashley and Lesnar, right?
Yeah.
So I always said that that's not what was on the table for Brock immediately, because they were not focused on Lashley until they knew what was happening with The Rock, because the main event for WrestleMania 38, the substitute main event, was for Brock Lesnar to face Roman Reigns, with Heyman being conflicted, and even like to the point where I knew that the way they were going to do this initially, if The Rock didn't come in, was for Brock to win the Royal Rumble and for Heyman to be talking that as if the choice was an automatic, where they were going to sell you a storyline of Paul Heyman being dominant and having a champion on both brands with the whole choice thing. It's like going to go, I'm going to have Brock Lesnar on Raw and I'm going to have Roman Reigns on SmackDown and I'm going to run the wrestling business. That was the backup. But obviously Brock would choose Roman and there wouldn't be this brand dominance. So that was kept as the background plan. Seeing what I saw on Saturday, is either like complete desperation and a reaction to CM Punk, or it's a case of, we spoke to The Rock, we know the schedule, we know the money, and we know he's doing WrestleMania 38. So we can now use Brock Lesnar and have Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar in Saudi. Like that would be what I would think has happened. Because if you're using Brock Lesnar now, and if you don't have The Rock for WrestleMania, what the hell are you going to do with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 38? Are you then going to do the Drew McIntyre match at WrestleMania 38? I don't think it's big enough. I mean, and I'm saying that as someone who knows the guy. Like, I don't think that's big enough for that stadium. I think it's big enough for a 2-night WrestleMania. I think it's big enough if you go to LA and you have like a decent celebrity involvement and Ronda Rousey's back on the card and Brock Lesnar's doing something else on the card or whatever. But I don't think it's big enough for Dallas Stadium, which is, 100,000 people. I don't think with what you've done with Drew McIntyre, him coming in as a babyface, he can face Roman Reigns. And some of that is the problem also with Drew, is that there's a taint on him where, not through no fault of his own, he's a COVID champion. You think of Drew McIntyre, and I think that you think of empty buildings, TV screens in the background, the Thunderdome and Performance Center. When you think of Drew being the champion, you cannot help, I don't think, but visualize this sort of sad story of how he didn't get to win it properly and was the champion of and carried them through COVID. Now, there should be thanks for that, but it doesn't seem to be. There seems to be kind of like we're trying to make people forget about it. So he's kind of the victim of that. But also what there could be from that is a really good heel storyline where he's like really bitter and saying, fuck you. I carried this company when they were in the shits. And then, everybody swept me to one side and nobody cared about me when the fans came back. And that's like how the best heels function, when they actually have something legitimate to say. And he's got a lot to actually be bitter about. So his heel turn is like totally automatic. And I think it'll be good if he can use all of that stuff and say it. But yeah, I mean, I think once Brock does this feud, he can get to Lashley at 38. And then your top match will be Rock and Roman. Yeah.
And a Lesnar versus McIntyre rematch probably could be good too.
Yeah, I don't know how they would go about that. Whether they want, if Brock has this loss to Roman, I wonder if they would use Drew McIntyre as someone for Brock Lesnar to beat before he faces Bobby Lashley, or they could just do a thing where Brock Lesnar eliminates Drew McIntyre last from the Royal Rumble, going back to going full circle from Drew eliminating him. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that match, all we've got on record is a 4-minute match. But the contrast there is quite vast when you look at when they were fully behind Drew. If you recall, he was kicking out of F5s on a 1 count. Now Jinder's getting like 2 counts for any shitty offensive move that Jinder Mahal does. So yeah, I mean that kind of does, emphasize your point.